Welcome. Today, we're not really talking about legends or sea monsters. We're looking at something maybe more disturbing. True accounts, real stories of terror, violence, and just strangeness from out on the open ocean.
Yeah, these are stories where being isolated, being so far from shore, is absolutely central. It changes everything.
It really does. The ocean becomes this sort of silent graveyard or maybe a stage for total chaos.
And its sheer size,
Yeah.
it just seems to amplify things. The violence can be more absolute. The mysteries, well, they often stay mysteries. Forever, maybe.
Let's start with that human element then, the violence. I was looking at one account about the offshore drilling industry in Nigeria back in the 90s.
Oh, right. That was an incredibly dangerous environment. Not just, rough seas, but piracy and conflict.
Exactly. This story involved pirates boarding a ship, heading to a platform, and it wasn't robbery, it was brutal.
Yeah.
They apparently beheaded 5 French company men.
Horrific. And the crews had to defend themselves, didn't they?
Yeah, the source mentions the crew fighting back. The person telling the story, their father, used an iron bar against one attacker.
And what happened?
The attacker went overboard, didn't resurface, so likely killed him. Just stark survival.
And that ties into the kind of security they needed back then. You mentioned Nigeria.
Yeah.
There's detail here about a compound for Albert Albella Catering just outside Lagos.
Yeah. What was it like?
Less like housing, more like a fortress. We're talking 14-foot high, concrete walls, battlements, razor wire everywhere.
Wow.
Sniper towers, too. And full-time security mercenaries,
Right.
apparently veterans hired from the Congo. It shows just how little faith they had in any kind of physical protection.
That level of fortification is intense, but you mentioned even that wasn't always foolproof.
No. There's an account of a major raid. About 100 men, described as IBO tribesmen, armed with machetes, attacking the compound walls.
100 men. How did they even try to get past walls like that with razor wire?
The tactic was just brutal efficiency. They threw thick rugs over the wire first.
Oh.
And then, get this, some of the attackers lay down flat on top of the razor wire.
What? So others could.
Exactly, so others could run across their backs to get over the barrier.
That's unimaginable, the desperation there.
It really is. The mercenaries fought them off, killed all the attackers in the end,
Yeah.
but it wasn't clean. 5 mercenaries died from machete wounds.
And the aftermath.
They were burning bodies for 2 days.
Yeah.
It wasn't just piracy. It was like localized warfare over resources. The kind of trauma described, like that fight with the iron bar,
Yeah.
it shows the extreme measures people were forced into.
Let's bring it more recent. There's another story here from a security detail, maybe 4 years ago, off Yemen.
Right. High-risk area, pirate waters.
Definitely. They were on a big car carrier, but the main engine failed, so they were just adrift in a very dangerous place.
Not a good situation.
No. This contractor was working on the stern, the very back of the ship. It's dim light. He shines a spotlight out into the darkness, and there's this small, rusty boat right there, maybe only 15 feet away.
15 feet? That's practically alongside.
Yeah. And in the boat, there's a man holding a gun, just staring at him intensely.
Wow. No shouting, no demands.
Nothing, just silence, this frozen moment, this stare down in the dark. The contractor remembered that, look, the intensity.
That silence can be more terrifying, can't it? The implied threat.
Totally. The pirate knew he had the advantage. Any move from the contractor, who knows?
So how did it end?
The source says the pirate just gave a little nod, almost like acknowledging something, maybe dominance, and then slowly pulled away back into the pitch black. Gone.
Chilling. That silent encounter, the potential violence hanging in the air, it sticks with you.
It really does. Okay, let's shift from that kind of direct human violence to, well, the truly inexplicable. Things found at sea that just shouldn't be there.
Ah, the mysteries, where the vastness meets something deeply unsettling. Like finding evidence of a crime where no crime scene should exist.
Exactly. There's an account here from someone whose brother was in the Navy. They were far out at sea, miles from anywhere.
And they spotted something.
Yeah, they saw this box floating in the water, just bobbing out there.
What kind of box?
Turned out to be an old refrigerator, a really old style one, and it was locked tight.
The fridge. Floating. Okay, that's weird enough.
It gets much worse. They managed to get it on board and pry it open.
And inside, let me guess.
Yeah. A body, a human body, very obviously deceased.
Oh, man. Just finding that is horrific.
But here's the detail that elevates it, the thing that makes your skin crawl. There were clear scratch marks on the inside of the refrigerator door.
Yeah. Seriously?
Yeah. Deep scratches, meaning the person was alive when they went in, locked in, and died trying to claw their way out, completely alone in the middle of the ocean.
That's just pure nightmare fuel. The isolation wasn't just where they were found, it was the instrument of their death. Locked in that box.
How long had it been drifting? Where did it come from? Impossible to know.
And the state of the body. If it wasn't badly decomposed, despite being out there, that just adds another layer of strangeness. Cold water. Deep currents preserving it? Who knows?
It leads into maybe the most baffling story we looked at. This one involves fisherman Dio and his father just a few years back.
Okay, what happened with them?
They were deep-sea fishing. It was night, around 12:30 a.m. Water was dead calm. They were setting up their gear.
Peaceful enough start.
Until they heard this really loud splash right off the port side of their boat. Very close.
Like something big hitting the water?
Yeah. They immediately looked over, and floating right there, face up, just a few feet away, was a young woman. Looked under 30.
Just appeared?
Appeared. And here's the truly weird part. She looked completely peaceful, like she was asleep. Her clothes, white skirt, blue top, were clean, not waterlogged. No signs of being in the water for any length of time. No bloating, no decomposition at all.
Wait, so she looked like she'd just gone in seconds before?
Exactly. That's what freaked them out the most. The splash, then seeing her instantly looking completely fresh.
So the implication, the only logical thought they could have had.
Right, was that she must have somehow come from their own boat. The splash was her hitting the water.
But they knew they were alone. They'd checked the boat.
Absolutely. They were certain no one else was on board. It made no sense, but the evidence right in front of them. It led to this terrifying conclusion. Sensory trickery versus stark reality.
What did they do?
They yelled at her, tried throwing a line, but she just started to drift away slowly. Dio ran to grab a gaff or fishing rod. His dad went for the radio. In those few seconds, she was gone. Vanished. Completely.
Vanished. How?
No idea. They searched everywhere, circled the area for ages, called the Coast Guard, got questioned extensively. No missing person reports matched, no explanation, nothing.
And the woman was just gone, swallowed by the dark.
Yep. They said neither of them has ever gone back to that fishing spot. Can you blame them?
Not at all. That's profoundly disturbing.
And sometimes the mystery isn't a body, but what's left behind. Like finding a makeshift bamboo raft way out in the South Pacific, empty. Snapped mast, an empty cooler tied down, just adrift.
Leaving you to wonder about the person who built it, who sailed it, what happened to them out there, completely alone.
Exactly. It's that trace of a struggle against the isolation and then silence.
Which brings us to the sort of the psychological side, the toll it takes, the decisions it forces.
Yeah, there's a WWII story here, a minesweeper in the North Atlantic. The father of the person recounting was the wireless operator.
Okay. Wartime North Atlantic. Dangerous waters.
Extremely. They came across a German pilot, alive, waving frantically from his downed aircraft floating in the sea.
And they picked him up.
No. Strict orders. U-boat threat was immense. Stopping, even for a rescue, could get the whole ship torpedoed.
So they had to.
They had to leave him. Sailed right past, left him there to die. The operator, the source says, was haunted by that image, that decision for the rest of his life.
That's an awful choice to have to make. Professional duty versus basic human instinct to help. And a heavy burden to carry.
Definitely. And speaking of wartime legacies, there's a weird follow-up related to the sinking of the USS Block Island in '44.
An aircraft carrier, right, sunk by U-boats. I remember that the rescue was tricky. Ships had to cut engines, drift silently so they wouldn't attract torpedoes themselves.
Right. Well, fast forward to 1966, the FBI shows up to interview one of the survivors, the grandfather in this account.
The FBI. Why? Decades later.
They were asking about his service pistol, a specific 9mm serial number 119348228. He'd lost it when the ship went down during the evacuation chaos.
Okay, so why were the FBI interested?
Because that exact pistol lost in the Atlantic in 1944 had just turned up at a mob murder scene in New York City.
What? How is that even possible? From the bottom of the Atlantic to a crime scene 20 years later.
Nobody knows. Salvage. Another wreck. Just one of those bizarre, untraceable threads the ocean coughs up sometimes.
That's incredible. The sea holds on to things, doesn't it? And then spits them out in the strangest places.
It really does. And it plays tricks on the mind, too, not just with objects. There's this account from the Merchant Navy 1970s, Bermuda Triangle, naturally.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Yeah. Ships moving slow, dense fog all around. Classic eerie setup.
And what did they see?
They came across a small boat, just sitting there in the fog. Inside, 3 men, described as Far Eastern, standing rigidly at attention, saluting the ship as it passed.
Saluting, were they ghosts?
Oh.
An apparition?
Apparently not. The witness was adamant they were real flesh and blood, but totally unresponsive. They shouted, hailed them nothing, just standing there, saluting, silent.
That's creepy. What did the captain do?
He refused to stop, didn't want the delay, maybe feared it was a trap or something dangerous, just kept going.
But isn't there a code? You stop for people in distress at sea no matter what.
Exactly. And that decision caused uproar, almost a mutiny, apparently. The crew felt it was fundamentally wrong, a betrayal of that maritime code.
So the captain's fear, or maybe just procedure, overrode that basic duty.
Seems like it. The pressure from the crew was so intense that he was forced to leave the ship at the next port. The sighting was weird, but the real breakdown was the trust, the ethics.
Yeah, the fear wasn't just the mystery boat, but the fear within their own command structure.
And sometimes the fear is much more tangible, right there with you. Another story mentions a crewmate who was just unstable, terrifying.
How so?
This guy apparently slept with a hatchet next to his bunk. Everyone on board was genuinely scared of him. Imagine being confined on a ship for months with someone like that.
That's intense psychological pressure, a literal ticking time bomb in close quarters.
Totally. And then, one morning, he was just gone. Vanished from the ship.
Jumped overboard. Suicide.
That's what you'd think. But the only clue they found was blood around one of the portholes in his cabin.
Blood. But could someone actually fit through a porthole? They're usually tiny.
Exactly. Far too small for a grown man to squeeze through. So the blood is there, he's gone, but the exit makes no sense. Murder. A bizarre accident. Something else. The mystery just hangs there.
It really highlights how the isolation cooker pressurizes everything. Sensory deprivation, too, like you mentioned with the fog.
Yeah, the source talks about that being in fog or darkness at night, far from land. Your senses play tricks.
Absolutely. You start hearing things, phantom engines maybe, seeing lights that aren't there. Your brain tries to fill the void.
And if you cut your own engine to listen,
it just gets worse sometimes. The silence becomes even more profound, more isolating. That's when the brain can really start playing tricks on you. Combine that with potential cabin fever, it's a recipe for paranoia, or worse.
It seems the sea itself can become this sort of canvas for dread. There's one last anecdote, witnessing a total solar eclipse in the English Channel.
Oh, interesting. What was that like from the water?
The description is vivid. The shadow of the moon approaching across the water looked like the biggest, most angry storm imaginable rushing towards them.
Visually dramatic, I bet.
But it was the feeling, this deep, growing sense of unease, a cold chill that had nothing to do with the actual temperature drop. The witness described it as exactly like the feeling of seeing a ghost.
Even though they knew what it was. A natural event.
Yeah, intellectually they knew. But viscerally, emotionally, it was pure primal dread. The eclipse passed, it got dark, then light again, nothing happened. But the feeling lingered. The ocean just magnified this natural event into something deeply unsettling.
I think that sums up a lot of these accounts. The ocean isn't just a setting for these things, the violence, the mysteries, the psychological breakdowns. It's almost an active participant. Its vastness, its indifference, it allows these things to happen, often unseen, unresolved.
Yeah, it allows for human cruelty to reach extremes, for accidents to become permanent disappearances, for minds to fray.
Yeah.
All outside the usual boundaries of observation or accountability.
Leaving behind only these fragmented stories, these unsettling glimpses into the darkness.
And maybe that's the thought to leave you with. Beneath the calm surface, or even within the storm, the sea holds on to these dark secrets. And sometimes the most terrifying mysteries aren't the ones we solve, but the ones that simply vanish without a trace, leaving only the story. Thank you for joining us for these stories. If you enjoyed this journey into the terrifying unknown, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. We appreciate your support.